here. If your dog struggles with reactivity or nervous system dysregulation, I want you to listen up. We're going to be talking a little bit about dog reactivity, dog anxiety today, and we're going to be talking about timelines and expectations when you're going through the healing process with a dog who struggles with these sorts of things. I think we'll start off with just some definitions, and then we'll move into answering some questions like how long will it take, what will that journey look like, and some big top tips that I have to see you to success as you go through the process yourself or with a coach or trainer like myself. So just some quick intros. My name is Karishma, if you haven't met me before. I'm head of training at CCA. Now, CCA is a group, a collective of dog trainers and behavior professionals who coach guardians from all around the world, helping humans and dogs heal from anxiety, reactivity, and aggression. We do all of our work virtually through formats much like this, where we provide information, craft behavior plans, and then coach you through the process. Today, we're starting at the beginning. We're going to just talk about reactivity and dysregulation. So let's just get some definitions down to start off with. So what do I mean by reactivity and dysregulation? The sort of behaviors that we tend to have folks come to us looking for help with: barking and lunging behaviors, growling, hyperactivity, difficulty listening, literally difficulty regulating their own body movements, breathing, etc. This can happen in many different contexts. This behavior can happen in response to many different triggers. Some of the common triggers that we work with: separation and isolation, confinement, so not being able to get to an attachment figure, environmental sensitivity to the city, the car, new places, maybe sound sensitivity to noises in the home, people, dogs, common triggers, common things that set off these behaviors, and there are many more. I would love to hear, if you're in the chat right now, if you're in this live, tell me what your dogs experience and what causes dysregulation for you and your dogs. And there are many different labels that we could be discussing: resource guarding, human aggression, dog aggression, handling aggression. All of these kind of behaviors come under different labels. I don't care so much about that right now. We're zooming out a little bit, regardless of what they're kind of freaking out about. And I say that lovingly. There's an underlying emotion, usually fear, anxiety, panic, frustration, and there's an underlying need that's not being met. And that's something we hear all the time in animal training, in also child care and looking after children, raising children. What is the need that's not being met? And what I want to talk about today is when we have these behavior problems, let's call them, I don't love that word, challenges. When we have these challenges that we have to face together with our dogs, what do we expect? What's going to happen? What should we expect as we're working through these things like separation anxiety, reactivity, etc.? So I'm seeing some people in the chat, saying, often, actually something worth mentioning, looking in the chat here, often we're talking about multiple different triggers. So someone's saying sound sensitivity, certain people stimulus, people in the home, etc., all of the above. So we're often dealing with multiple triggers, multiple things that our dogs are becoming dysregulated around. And I think the first thing to talk about when discussing this question, what is the healing process going to look like? What does it look like to get from here, lunging, barking, out of control, to calm, happy, relaxed, capable, regulated? It sometimes feels impossible. It's not impossible, but it's not simple either. I'm just going to quickly quiet that. It's not simple. I see... I'm on the dog training TikToks. I see the videos of a dog lunging and barking at a stranger, and then somebody corrects them and puts them in a heel position, and that's supposed to fix the underlying fear. The need that's not being met is the need for safety. Correcting the dog and then teaching them a heel or to down on a place, that's not really kind of addressing the underlying emotion, addressing the underlying need. So behavior is complex. It's not going to be simple. It absolutely is possible, but we have to look like a multimodal healing strategy, multimodal treatment. It's not just going to be teaching the dog something involving learning, like teaching them to heal. We're going to have to be looking at lots of different areas of the dog's life, their mental health, their physical health, their daily routine, and the way that you two communicate. We might also be teaching them things like a loose leash walk, or a cue that indicates that there's a trigger coming, or maybe if we're doing separation work, we're teaching them to be calm and relaxed while we leave. But it's never as simple as just this one thing that we have to do. So I think first of all, acknowledging that it's going to be a multimodal approach. It's not going to be like take this pill and then they're better. It's going to be more like, try this, let's see if this works, test it, okay, well, we'll adjust it ever so slightly in this direction, try that, test that, move the criteria a little bit, constantly shifting, constantly moving, more like a dance, more like a, it's like so like cringy, but it's like the journey, right? Like it's gonna wind. So I guess I'm just connected to my AirPods, so I had to turn that off. Does that make sense to everybody? So the first thing here we have to think about is that we're not going to be looking at just like one thing and then it's done. Often especially with complex, where we have multiple behavior concerns, it's going to be looking at lots of different areas. So even just that gives you a thought about what the timeline might be like here, and that's going to move me on to the next question, which is, okay, so it's complex, Karishma, we get it, you're going to have to do lots of different things, but how long will it take? And that's one of the biggest questions we get. How long will it take until I can leave my dog alone? How long will it take until I can walk down the street without worrying about, people surprising us, or a sound setting my dog off, for example? Well, I'm going to give you the classic dog trainer answer here, which is it depends. Thank you, Hera. Thank you. So just now my doorbell went off and my dog gave one little bark and I was able to calm him. Good boy. Settle down now. Well done, Angel. But I think what you'll find is that, one, it's never like the dog is done, right? They always need support. Like just now, my doorbell went off. My dog used to not be able to handle that at all. Now he can. I gave him a bit of support. He could handle it. He could regulate himself. I'm going to just pet him while he calms down and then he'll go back to sleep. But the first thing is, it's not going to be like they're done. They're not like a cake, You don't like cook the cake and then the cake's done. It's not like that. Like you're constantly going to be helping them. You're constantly going to be working with them to navigate the daily challenges of life. So how long will it take? It's never done. You're never done. Like parenting, you're never done, right? But that being said, hi you, I hear you, I know, hello. He's asking me for cuddles. He was like, that was scary. Someone says, wow, that was amazing. Oh, thank you. Well, we really specialize in sound stuff. So he used to live in an environment where he was so overwhelmed. He was barking like 20, 30 times a day, maybe more, unable to regulate himself. And the healing process for him looks like this. He's never going to be perfect. I mean, I think this is perfect. One bark and then he regulates himself. That's fantastic. I'm so happy with that. But the first thing is that, it's not going to be an end, kind of, we're done kind of process. And then the second thing is that there are going to be ups and downs, It's not like you fix the separation anxiety and then the dog is fixed forever. Just like you can't ever, I'm sure if you've ever experienced anxiety, it's not like it's gone forever. It might come back, maybe triggered by a significant life event or a period of high stress, or you move house and then that causes extra stress, and then, you might see them being a bit more nervous around noises. This is normal. So ups and downs will be part of the process, and the process never ends. And that's not bad. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Sometimes people are like, what? That's so scary. It's not scary. It's a really good thing, I promise, because when you realize that this is the case, you can lean in. You can lean in with your dog and say, okay, it's going to be messy, it's going to be up and down, but I know that we are going to get where we need to go, and we're going to continue to put one foot in front of the other. So me and my dog here have been working. He's 6 years old. I've got him almost 6.5. I got him when he was 5-6 months old. So it took us a long time to get there, and things got a lot worse before they got better. So our kind of like graph of progress, up and down, up and down. I can give you like a little example. He was doing well in his puppyhood, then really badly during adolescence, then things got a bit better. Then I had some life stuff going on which made his health get worse. We then moved country, which kept him down here for a bit, and then he's been slowly climbing out ever since. We've even had a recent dip again because of a consistent ear infection that he's been having. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the up and down is normal. It's part of the process. Just like sometimes you're tired or sometimes you get sick, it's normal for there to be ups and downs. So expect that from them. So it will depend on lots of different things, but I want you to mainly be focusing on the two kind of points, which is that the healing process is never over. It's a process, and as you go through that process, there'll be ups and downs along the way. Now, I think at this point, sometimes folks can be like, oh, that sounds kind of scary and out of my control, or it can be very hard to see the forest through the trees because, you know, for example, 2 months ago, my dog was really struggling with his, he's gone back to sleep now, but he was really struggling with his ear infections, and it was recurrent, and it was resisting treatment. And at the time, it was really hard for me to remember what he was like before. And I was like feeling kind of rubbish about it, to be honest, because it went on for a few weeks, and I was like, oh, he'll never get back to how he was. We'll never be able to, you know, do what he just did now, which is recover really quickly. I'm going to always need to, you know, really help him. And that just wasn't true. So seeing the forest through the trees is the hardest part, and not getting bogged down in the details. So at CCA, when you work with us, we do a lot of data tracking and a lot of reflection, which saves us from being overwhelmed. So a little bit, we basically track 4 different quadrants of the dog's behaviors every single day, 5 days a week. Everyone gets 2 days off from tracking. So we track as much as we can to get like a good idea of what's going on in the dog's life. And what that generally means is that when we do feel tossed about in the ups and downs of the behavior change process and the healing process, we can look back at our data, and it can help us feel less overwhelmed. We're able to focus on the small wins and see the progress rather than looking for perfection. So if you are feeling overwhelmed by the ups and downs of your dog's behavior, my suggestion would be to consider how you could start tracking that data. If you need help, including, you know, like templated data trackers that we use, etc., you can always work with us in our private programs or in our group coaching programs. For data tracking, really, we do a lot of it in our private programs with you, and in our group programs we kind of let you do it but we give you the tools, so you have different levels of support depending on what you need. But in general, I'm going to be saying to folks that you're going to need to be tracking data consistently, especially if you're like me, ADHD, anxious, kind of impulsive sometimes, insofar as, like, you know, I can get frustrated and go, I'm just going to do this now, which is actually not helpful. Like, I need to stick to the plan. I have a plan. Having a plan is one of the most helpful things. I have a plan. I'm tracking my data, and having that awareness and being prepared can be really, really helpful for that. So I'm just going to look at some questions that we have. If anyone does have any questions about the journey, healing behavior concerns, we're really talking today about like the experience from a zoomed out perspective rather than going into the nitty-gritty of treatment protocols. This is a question we get so frequently from people. It's such a good one. So on the topic of timelines and expectations, when we have multiple behavior problems, this is what Body Love Warrior is saying. I actually love your account. I've looked at it before. I've seen you around, so hello. So how many different things can you work on with your dog at once? We are doing separation anxiety training, but I want to also teach her to feel safe getting her nails trimmed and also to settle more. So I'm hearing 3 different kind of areas that you want to be working on right now: alone time behaviors, cooperative care around nails, and settling and sleeping. Now, when it comes to creating training plans, there's no one rule fits all. Like, I can't be like, only work on 2 behavior things at the same time, because it's so dependent on your household, how many guardians there are, the type of dog you have, your routine, so many different things. But, and I'm going to say, there are usually two different kind of things that I look at when trying to triage different behavior concerns. I guess I should say that multiple behavior concerns is an area of specialty to us. It's something that we work on every single day. So this is not unusual at all. The first thing we'll be thinking about is what is most necessary for welfare, the welfare of the dog and the human and the people in the community. So right now I'm hearing that your dog has separation anxiety, which is likely affecting your welfare as the human, because we can't leave separation anxiety dogs alone very easily, right? And it's hard in a post-capitalist hellscape to find a village to help support you. I get it. So for the welfare piece, I'm imagining that for the human guardian, working on the separation anxiety first would be really beneficial, getting that out of the way. So there's that. But I'm also hearing that the dogs struggle, maybe you're struggling to get their nails trimmed and they're struggling to settle in the home. And I would want to investigate that a little bit more. Obviously, I'm not giving any advice. This is just extrapolation. I'm just, spitballing, just chatting about behavior generally with this example. But I'm also always thinking, like, if your dog, this might not be the case with your particular dog, but if it's the case that your dog is struggling to sleep in the home because they're so agitated by the noises and the things out of the windows, and they're not sleeping that 16 to 18 hours that the dogs need to be happy and healthy, how much might that negatively impact our separation anxiety work? So you're thinking about welfare, but then you're also thinking about like the practical, like what's going to be effective here, because I would love to get the separation anxiety just out of the way quickly, but it doesn't really work like that. So I would really be using that tracker, and I would be looking at your weekly routines and thinking, okay, how much sleep is this dog getting? Do I think that we can shelve these less important behavior concerns, focus on the separation anxiety, and then bring them in at another point? Or do I think that it's more important that we work on these things so that we can unlock the success we want to see in the separation anxiety areas? It's complicated, right? And honestly, that seeing the forest through the trees kind of analogy is a really good one for this exact concern. Often our trainers, we have like a team, between 8 and 12 trainers, depending on the kind of meetings that we're in, and we'll always be spitballing with each other these sorts of problems with ourselves and with our clients' dogs, trying to come up with, what is the best solution here for everyone that's going to be the fastest and most effective, is going to relieve the discomfort that the animal, the dog and the human might be feeling, going to be safe, going to be ethical, etc. So it's a challenging one, and this first step is tracking, because if you're tracking what you're doing now, you'll know how much you're doing, and then you'll be able to judge whether or not you should increase or decrease what you're doing. It's hard without data, so that's where I'd start. I'm really all about the data today. I love data. Do you have a recommended tracker? Yes, our tracker. We have a tracker, but we do not give it out for free. So we have a tracker that uses our CCA HEAL framework, and if anyone's interested in this, we will be hosting a webinar next month about this, and we will be giving out a version of that tracker. In that webinar, it will be a paid webinar though, and I'll stay tuned if you're interested, and I'll be kind of telling everyone about that in the next few days. But as of now, we don't offer that for free because it is extremely important to us, and I want to make sure it's being used properly, etc. And we're still kind of developing the final touches. But at minimum, you could start tracking like trigger points and glimmer points. That's something that I do for myself. I got that from Mental Health TikTok. Trigger points throughout the day where you and your dog struggled, and glimmer points throughout the day where you were like, this is awesome. That could be the basic starting point for anyone who doesn't have a more robust framework like ours, or isn't working with a professional who can guide you through the process, because doing this DIY and doing this wrong can also be not great. We're messing with an animal's life. We're often messing with the sensitive animals' welfare, mental health. So I want to give as much information as I can without being cavalier about this stuff, because we've got to make sure we're doing it correctly. So start off maybe with glimmer points and trigger points, and if you're interested in learning more about just the healing process, especially the way that we do things, and learning more about the tracking that we do, I would suggest you just hang around the page and you'll see some recommendations. We'll talk about the webinar over the next few days, and you can maybe join us. But for now, I'll just do a quick little summary, because I think I got all the questions. Okay, so Body Love Warrior very quickly has come back to say that the settle was for the vet and she sleeps a lot in the home. So these are the details. These are the details that we'd need. And settling at the vet sounds like part of that cooperative care piece, feeling safe at the vet, feeling safe with nail care. These are all fantastic goals, I think. Really, really good stuff. All right, my love, so just a quick summary. We were talking today about the healing process for behavior concerns like reactivity, separation anxiety, aggression, etc. And we discussed a few questions. First, this idea that the process is not super simple, that it's not going to be like we just do this one thing and then it's going to be fixed. It's complex. We have to look in different areas like their physical health, like their mental health, like trauma, like your communication with them, etc., and craft a plan that spans over many different areas. In terms of how long it will take, it's never done. We're always on this journey. It's a process, not a destination. Or it's a journey, not a destination. Is that it? I mixed up my metaphors. And it'll be up and down. The process will not be linear. When we're dealing with multiple behavior concerns, we are often talking months, we are often talking years, and that's not unusual, especially if you've ever been to therapy yourself for any sort of trauma or anxiety. It's a timeline that's quite appropriate and expected for humans, so we need to extend the same expectations to our dogs. And the last kind of big tip that I can give you all, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, if you're feeling tossed about in the process a little bit and need something to help kind of ground you, thinking about tracking data, starting off with just glimmer moments and trigger moments throughout the day, maybe just in an app on your phone, or even just talking about it with your partner at the end of the day to start off with. And if you want to learn more, stay tuned on the CCA page, and we'll be talking about our webinars for August, one of which will go into this, and we'll be giving out some ideas around tracking for folks there if anyone wants to learn more. So I think I'm going to finish up there. Thank you for your questions, my loves. It was so fun, and I will be taking any questions anyone has in the comment section, so drop them there and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you, everybody. I hope this was fun and helped you kind of maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with the place you're at in your process, and maybe you're going to practice and try tracking some data, and let me know how it goes. All right, cheers, friends. See you soon. Bye.